My name is Hana. I'm a writer, kind of like for Journal du Luxe. So Journal du Luxe is one of the biggest French-speaking, I would say, online and digital journal, which is really focused on luxury. It's mostly business to business, because basically consumers don't really read it. It's mostly businesses people. So I'm Korean, so 안녕하세요, 여러분. And I've been living all my life in Europe. So that's a very specific trait of mine. I'm actually a French speaker. I didn't get the chance to grow up in Korean because I'm an adopted child, basically. But I went back to Korea in 2008, and I discovered K-beauty, K-culture. I get the chance to visit my family back in Korea, my mother, for example, and this is where it came from. So basically, I'm coming from the fashion and music scene. So I've worked in fashion. That was my first job. Then I had a internship working in music when I was younger. And all of that made me a very person that's passionate about fashion, music, and art in general, movies, dramas, and so on. And I've been able to see the development of Korea for like 16 years now, and it's really incredible how far they've come and how they've been using and leveraged the Hallyu wave. So basically, I'm going to go back to what I do after all those experiences in fashion and music. I've decided that I used to have my own consignment company in Paris when it was 2014 to 2017. And then I moved to Luxembourg for, my husband's, my spouse's career. And basically, I went and did an MBA. And for my MBA, I concentrated on Korean talents and the luxury brands, mostly French brands, but luxury is luxury. So I'm not close-minded to other type of luxury items. And during that MBA, I had the chance to work with a Korean actress called Kim Gyori. She's a mostly movie actress, but she's also done Korean dramas, and she's worn and she's carried some of the bags of a brand that I work with. And, then there was COVID, BTS became huge. And in 2003, I had the chance and the opportunity to write about Korean talents in the luxury field. So we are really going to be speaking about luxury and how Korean talents are seen as products, more or less, cultural products to elevate and leverage brand narratives for luxury brands. So as you can see here on my screen, I'm very sorry, it's only in French, it's not in English, but I've written about Louis Vuitton, I've written about Celine, Christian Dior, then also the engagement of MZ generation and, Korean talents and the way that they are spreading their own positivity, but also sometimes their difficulties in today's world. And I finished by the marketing, the luxury marketing in Korea, explaining how it works. I'm also figuring out to open my own company. It's still in the it's being worked on, but it's taking much longer than I thought, which will be concentrating on consultancy, but also marketing, mostly cultural marketing, and how to get to the bottom of things when it comes to understanding Korean, but also Asian customers as a whole. So voila. So, well, it's already 10:10, so let's just move on. So basically, if we look at Korean dramas and so on, became really big during those last 10 years. Korea is a country that really suffered a lot and was very, very poor. Thankfully, in 1988, South Korea, Seoul had the chance to get the Olympic Games, which really bolstered Korea into making sure that they work hard so that Korea becomes a richer country and that, the children of Korea get a better life, because that's mostly what Koreans had in mind. Everybody wants their children to have a better life, and they worked hard. Sadly, in 1997, there was the IFM crisis, the monetary fund crisis, which really stopped Korea in its development. They had already decided, to get Korean talents because, in Korea, we don't really do war. We're already a split country. So it's very important that we find something that fits Koreans. And the arts have always been something that Koreans did well. Koreans like beautiful things. They like art. They like painting, drawing, even if, you get very, how can I say, academics in Korea, you also have a lot of artists. And basically this idea of putting a lot of emphasis on Korean talents started in 95, if I remember well, but really became something huge from 97 onwards. Korea decided to create, I would say, national agencies like KOKA to make sure to spread the Korean talents to people around the world, and it really worked well. So, they are in France, they're in Germany, they're in the US, of course, Middle East, India, Southeast Asia. So that really worked well for them. The beginnings were not that great, but, what's really good with Koreans is that they always try to make sure that, if they do something wrong, they will find a way to make it right and to learn from. There's a lot of testing and errors. So there we go. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so people can concentrate better. There we go. So from there on, I'm going to go into the inception of luxury and Korea. I think back in 2009, you probably all know him, but G-Dragon was one of the first Korean powerhouse to get a contract with Louis Vuitton. So basically was wearing items from Louis Vuitton. He was always the sort of person that was extremely creative, and that really drew not only his fans, but people in Asia and brands to start being interested in what he was doing. Then he started coming over to Paris. And whenever he was in Paris, there were like a huge amount of fans. Let's remind everybody that Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, Singaporeans, and so on are really huge luxury consumers. And that for quite some time, Chinese consumers were even the ones who were consuming the most. Not the biggest per capita, but they were consuming quite a lot. So that they have quite a lot of millionaires. They have the most female billionaires as well, so in Asia. And that really drew Asian customers when they were coming to Paris, for collection and catwalks, to be really entranced because, oh my God, that's G-Dragon. Everybody in Asia knows the guy. And let's be honest, French brands, Italian brands, they didn't really know about these guys before. They were not really interested. I mean, I'm just going to be very plain on that. They were not interested into Korean, and they were not understanding really what was going on. But after a while, they realized that basically when they had G-Dragon coming over, consumers were like, oh my God, he's here. And they were spending more money. He's a man, but sometimes he wears female's garments. Nothing wrong with that. And that really, really worked, actually. So after a while, I think Chanel went up to him and said, okay, when you're coming over, we want you to come only to our show. but it was kind of like, okay, but how can we work on that? And he ended up he was the first Korean to get a very unique type of contract. He became an ambassador for Chanel. Then in 2017, he signed this really nice launch. You know, there was a bag called the Gabrielle bag by Chanel, which was a three-way handbag. And it featured Pharrell Williams, you know, the singer, the rapper, who's now Louis Vuitton's director, and also Cara Delevingne. And in 2017, this is when I presented my MBA thesis. So that really, you know, kind of worked out properly, because I could explain, okay, so for example, if you look at Delvaux, who's a very old, the oldest handbag brands, you know, like leather good brands in Europe, they started putting their handbags, you know, this really nice handbag. Maybe I can actually show you, so that really gives you an idea of Kong Gyojin with a Delvaux handbag. Let me show you, because I think that's really important. There we go. Give me 1 sec, and I'm going to share my screen again. So that gives you more. So Kong Yeo-jin, I don't know if you guys know her. She's like a really big Korean actress. And here you can see that she's wearing a Delvaux handbag. So people need to know that Kong Yeo-jin is one of the favorite Korean actors. And, you know, she was sort of a fashion icon in her own. And she started carrying Delvaux here, for example, but also in dramas. So Delvaux from 2014 started in a very smart manner to get their bags carried on screen, you know, by Kong Yeo-jin especially. She's also representing another brand. And she was someone who was very important for the brand because she's an actress. So she gets to play roles where, you know, she can use the storytelling. When she has a role, she's got that storytelling going on. Oh, I'm going to play a psychiatrist. You know, if you're a psychiatrist, you probably earn good money. Or I'm going to play a doctor. A doctor earns good money. So she can carry the bag, and it fits into the narratives really, really well. And basically, it's sort of endorsement, which is very thin, you know, it's not something which is too much in your face, works really well with actors. And I don't know if you've watched lately Queen of Tears. Well, Kim Ji-won, she basically also wears Delvaux in the drama. And I'm going to share my screen, so you know that, so it speaks to you guys properly. Just give me 1 second that it loads. And I hope that this will actually be more interesting for you guys. So you know, they've been doing it since 2014, but they still do it. And in the last drama by Netflix, which was Queen of Tears, which also, I mean, she was a heiress. She had her own Paekgwajong, you know, really, really big profile. And throughout the show, she's carrying Delvaux. Again, we work in a very nice way of using Korean talents. They are cultural products, you know, showing and finding ways to, you know, create narratives between luxury and Korea. And of course, those type of endorsements, which are not as big and as in your face as with Korean K-pop talents. It's a bit different. You will see that basically it started earlier than K-pop, which is a bit weird, you'll tell me, but back in 2014, K-pop was not as big as it is now. So you did have some big bands already, but it wasn't as it is now. So it started like that. Then in 2017, suddenly there was this huge thing in France or maybe it was 2019, sorry about that. The BTS, which was completely unknown to most French people, they sold out the Stade de France, which is 70,000 people, I think, 2 nights in a row. So people were like, who are these guys? How come they can do sold out at the Stade de France 2 nights in a row? That's we don't hear them, we never see them. Who are these guys? And then suddenly people realized that there was this huge fandom behind BTS, K-pop group, 7 guys from Korea, and they were actually huge in the US. And it really came from the US. I mean, I'm not gonna lie that the US was a stepping stone for Korean talents. Yes, Kong Yo-jin is legendary. I agree with you. She's great. She's beautiful, and I think anyway, I'm a big fan. And basically, in 2019, they also came with Moon Jae-in, you know, the former president of Korea, and they were with Kim Gyori, you know, the actress. She was also there with President Moon, and that's when I had the opportunity to basically work in that. Then from there on, it became huge. Suddenly people were like, what? There's a G-Dragon, there are K-dramas. And then we had 2020 COVID. What happened during COVID? I'm asking you guys, what were you guys doing during COVID? I know what I was doing. I was staying home. I was,
In
I was watching
in
dramas.
COVID? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree on this side. Yes.
Yeah, and it really became a huge stepping stone again for Korean dramas, Korean talents. And everybody was kind of like, oh my God, I just discovered Korean dramas. And that was making sense because, some people that were, I would say, a little bit more lo-fi, they were already into Korean dramas. They'd been watching it already, but it became a household name. Suddenly people were watching it and were like, oh my God, this is so great. I have never seen something like that. And it's true. It's completely different. Then there was this huge thing of BTS becoming, as a group, of course, the representatives for Louis Vuitton. They were just the first ones. As they say, they paved the way, and it's really true. Especially they were not from a big label, but they really paved the way. So they became the representatives for Louis Vuitton, for Virgil Abloh's last collection. And I think it made something like 3 or 4 million people tuning on to Twitter to actually watch it. That really became huge again. So since then, brands have been going crazy. Then there was Blackpink. Of course, it works a little bit better for them because they women. So, to wear, like Chanel. I think Jenny was already working for Chanel, but only for Korea. And then she became also this huge persona. Liza started representing Celine. V also started representing Celine after some of the BTS members went to the army, and suddenly we had all these Korean talents such as Jisoo for Dior. She's one of the biggest persona when she goes into Dior in Paris, or even she just went to the New York Fashion Week, and they kind of like made so much engagement that luxury brands cannot work without them anymore. And this is where Korea is been working really well. Because if you look at the beginning, at the inception, like Hot and things like that, how could we imagine that 20 years later, Korean talents would be, representing and respected around the world for what they do? Of course, always we talk about BTS and Blackpink, but without Hot, Super Junior, Big Bang, and so on, they would not be here anymore. I mean, they would not be where they are now. But really, what's really interesting is how also the digital landscape really helped Korean talents to, I think, understand Western beauty standards a little bit more as well. Yes, they are like global ambassadors, especially, and that's really something I want to talk about. For example, Chanel has this, they launched this collection called Coco Crush with Jenny, and it became huge. I mean, she really became the spokesperson. They also had this really nice pop-up in Korea, and she was there and everybody was there. It became a huge thing. But they also have another collection which is called Première Watch, which is a former collection that they decided to relaunch again. So it disappeared for a few years, maybe more, maybe a decade. And basically, the watch, it's the Place Vendôme, basically. So the history is really, really interesting for that watch. But they hired Lily Hosdep, to represent that part of the collection, which did not work at all. If you look onto Instagram, she made a video for Chanel, which was watched 50,000 times. So now what they do is that they decided to add Jenny to the campaign to get more people watching it. But it's still a little bit difficult because the way that they are doing their marketing here is not that clear. And I think either they should put the two girls together or find a way, but basically they are using Jenny's image to get more engagement. Yes, a global influence is phenomenal. I agree. And basically what they are doing is doesn't seem to work that well because it's already the second campaign that Lily is doing for the Premiere Watch, and it's not picking up. And what's also very strange is that basically Jenny was the one seen for the first time with the watch. So basically it's a necklace in a watch. And then the campaign did not feature her at all. So that was a very strange way of actually doing it. Or maybe she's used for Asia and Lily for the rest of the world, but so far it's not working. And that really shows that even if you just want to use a Korean talent, if you are not into the whole understanding of the talent, of the fandom, but also of the talent in itself, it's gonna flunk. And I think this really shows that Koreans have really understood how to market themselves, because thanks to all that Hallyu wave, Korea has never been so hot. People want to travel there. Jin, it came to the Olympic Games because, Korea and Olympic Games, they are really like this. There's a history. Without the Olympic Games, maybe Korea wouldn't be where it is at the moment. It came with, I think it was Chaumet and Samsung. And I really, again, in Paris, people were completely crazy. He had his fans in the street shouting for him. It just went to Milano. And again, the fans were completely crazy. And again, Jean is the one who got the most engagement in Milano. So yeah, so that's what I really wanted to share, is like how Korea was able to capitalize on its talents to share Korean culture, Korean know-how, Korean know well what they do, how they work, also the family core, but also the MZ generation, what they want to improve in life. So yeah, so far I think it's a great thing to be working with them on several different topics.
That's all quite interesting to know, Hannah, especially about starting from its inception. Now we see Korean artists everywhere. They're primary ambassadors, not like they're focused to Korea region or Asia region. Now they're globally featured in most brands.
Yes.
Do they also? Sorry, continue.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just asking, do they do similar with similar type of promotion with beauty products as well, or is it more catered to fashion?
So at the moment, it's mostly fashion. I would say that Jenny, she's got that really cool gig with Timberlands, and you know, Era, so that also works well with them. But for example, Timberins and Hera are not sold in Europe. So I mean, we do have Amore Pacific, but even Amore Pacific doesn't have all the brands sold in Europe. I wish that they would come with Era to Europe. They would be great. But at the moment, they are not doing it, which is a bit of a shame, because in Korea, here is a very beautiful brand and it works really well. It's like, you know, quite expensive as well. And it is able to compete with other brands. The problem, I think, with Europe is that, for example, they don't always know. You know, sometimes I teach as well, and one student said to me, "But La Neige, isn't it American?" And I was like, "No, it's not American. It's completely Korean, but okay, but La Neige, then it's French." It was like, no, 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 it is Korean.
Korea.
So, you know, I think it's also one thing is that Koreans don't always want to show, I mean, you know, I mean, most of you have been in Korea, you know how it is, you know, some of you live in Korea. And Koreans, sometimes they are not that proud of their country. It's kind of like, I have a few friends here, and they always tell me, "Hannah, I don't understand why you watch K-dramas. It's so bad." And I'm like, "No, it gives me so much emotions." And they just look at me like, "Oh, I don't understand you. Is it because you didn't grow up in Korea?" And I'm like, "No, I find this whole, you know, the junk, you know, this really nice emotion that I really enjoy. And I really feel close to some of the characters which are depicted, because there's always a situation where they are struggling, and then this whole resilience is very important. Resilience is really part of the Korean culture, and it really goes hand in hand with luxury, because luxury is also a mattress of resilience. In terms of, most maisons are 200 years, you know, some of them are very big, and the fact that they are still present these days also shows resilience. And therefore I think, you know, Korea resilience, you know, luxury resilience kind of understand one another on a deep rooted level.
Yeah. So somebody has commented also.
Worldwide handsome. Worldwide handsome, is it Jin? Is the one that people call, yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, you know, that's gonna change
No,
something.
he's everywhere.
Yeah,
So
but he was so great. You know, he came out of the army, and then he held this really huge event, and then he hugged his fans. He had dinner with them. And I thought, this is such a Korean concept, you know, nobody does it that way. And I've never seen, you know, a French or an American or even a British you know, talent do, you know, having like a conversation with the fans, a dinner with the fans. I did have a beer with Kate Moss in England when I was younger, but that's another thing. I just happened to be in the pub and she was also in the pub, but that's about it. But otherwise, I think Koreans are really good in creating chong, and that's what is making them different from their American counterparts and Western counterparts in a whole.
So let's just see if anyone has any questions for Hana.
Don't hesitate, guys. I'm really cool. Yes.
So,
What I think about that, of course, everybody was talking about it. And if you remember well, she went to the Crazy Horse and she did that dance. And basically, you know, for Chinese netizens, that was very shameful, culturally speaking. And I can understand that for Chinese people, it's not something that you do. For me, I mean, you know, I grew up in a French-speaking family, so seeing the women on Crazy Horse is not something that I find dismissive or something like that. But you have to see it on a business kind of way, is that basically for the brands that she endorsed, it was really, really bad. They got so much backlash. So I think, and you know, she's not the only one to have done something which was not that great in terms of reputation. You know, reputation index is super important in Korea, but also the rest of Asia is very, you know, it's important. So basically, I think at the time they decided to lay low with her, but Celine could not just go ahead. I mean, V is doing his army. So basically, they only had like Park Bo-gum. So they found someone else, which happens to be Danielle from New Jeans. Danielle was basically working with Burberry, but I think it wasn't good enough for Danielle. And just tell me if you guys disagree with me, but I think she's actually quite good for Celine. She's younger. She brings new people, you know, the newest Gen Z, MZ people. And she really came with this new image. Also, I think what's really good with Danielle is that she's IFO, you know, she's half, and she can play with the two images. Sometimes she can look more Asian, sometimes she can look more Western. And I think that can really help. I mean, it can really bolster Celine more globally. So that's why I think she's great. You know, she's got that Korean side, but she's also got that Western side, which really kind of help her. You know, she can play with her looks more. Sometimes she can be blonde, you know, sometimes she can be like long brown hair, you know, with the fringe. So that really helps in terms of image. Oh, thank you, Jinju. That's really kind of you. And yes, regarding Liza, then she went to LV after, I think, a year or something like that. But she was also on hiatus. She was not doing much. I think she was preparing for a solo career. And also for her, I mean, if you look at the amount of engagement that she has, don't be fooled, folks. She has less engagement than Jenny, but she has so many followers that, you know, it counts. And also she's, I mean, LV was pretty good for her, I think, especially since LVMH is opening more and more Thailand. Thailand is also becoming a huge hub for luxury.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question is that do you think that this is the start of a Hallyu or middle stage or kind of end of Hallyu? Just curious.
I think we are really at the middle, where we are really at the highest stage of Hallyu. And I think now, you know, generation 5, you know, it's the ones coming after the 4, is really going to have to work hard. But then again, we have New Jeans, you know, they are working hard. Of course, you know, there's the whole crisis at the moment at Hype, which doesn't help. But I think the girls are very talented. The music is working well. They are so cute, and they represent Korea really, really well. So hopefully, you know, they can sort it out as adults and help out those girls to, you know, to continue their careers, because they are so good. I mean, even as myself, I grew up in the 90s. I mean, I'm 42. And when I heard them, I was like, oh, it goes straight to my heart. I really like the songs. I like how they are dressed. I wasn't a big fan of Blackpink's dressing style, but because, you know, it's not my generation. But when I look at New Jeans, because I grew up in the 90s, start of 2000s, that was more, that really spoke to me, that really struck a chord. Oh, and as
Okay, thank you for
consumers,
that. Yes.
you're welcome. Do you have any other question, guys, for me?
Yeah, just one more. There's one in the chat. How can we understand and enjoy this Korean cultural influence as Koreans, as consumers, and as global citizens?
So I think, first of all, I know that, you know, some of the Hallyu wave that's really big in Asia is less known in Europe. You know, it's very funny because, for example, Twice has always been bigger than Blackpink in Asia, for example, Red Velvet as well. And in Europe, I mean, Blackpink is like everything. Blackpink is very good also with their image, is that they really are good suiting for the Western market. So as a Korean, how can you enjoy and how can you understand? So basically understand it as a way that the West is actually understanding us Koreans. And I think that really shows how hard previous generations have worked hard to make it where we are now. you know, sweat, blood, and tears, as we say. They've really worked hard. They've suffered a lot. And now we are able to see that Korean culture is somehow an influence worldwide, that it's really bringing a lot of emphasis to us Koreans. And it also opens us as Koreans to travel the world and go everywhere. And then we can come back with everything we've learned and share it among ourselves. British boy band. Oh yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Cindy. I did see that. I think they're not the only ones. I think Hybe also is working with Hybe America into making a Western boy band. Well, I think they have no choice at the moment. Why? Because if you are looking, do you guys know Sabrina Carpenter? Yes, no, Sabrina, you know, she wrote a song about espresso.
I've heard of
Yeah.
it, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. First time I heard her, I thought it was actually a Korean talent. I did not see her face. I only heard the song. And I thought, oh, that's K-pop. No, it's not K-pop, according to Shazam. So I'm like, okay, so if Shazam says it, she's not K-pop, who is she? So I did a little bit. And then I saw her face and I was like, she's got that really kind of, she really looks like a mix, like an American which used Korean, you know, the way of how we do K-pop, but used it for America. I mean, if you look at American singers these days, they are not working out that well. I mean, even in the US, bestsellers are actually Koreans. The only one who's working well is Taylor Swift, the only one. But
Yes.
she's got a long career already. I mean, Taylor didn't just start yesterday. So basically, they have no choice. I think they are going for the Korean vibe in some of the new talents. So Koreans are like, okay, so they are taking our vibes and trying to, you know, it's a little bit of cultural appropriation to me. But then they decided probably, okay, we need to maybe find ways to get like Western people that are very obsessed and fans of it to represent us, because at some point they also need to be able to grow. And, you know, even if we have a lot of Korean talent and it's working super well, you still have people in the West. I mean, I live in the West, so I can explain it, who still find it difficult to listen to Koreans, to look at Koreans. I've had people telling me, I don't understand why people watch Korean dramas. I can't watch Asian people on television. It's weird to me. So when you have people like that, it's a little bit complicated. If Korean, and you know, remember they are corporations, they will need to be able to grow in other ways, other market, and go even more global. If people cannot find any, you know, chong with us Koreans, then they will, you know, create other type of talents such as British boy band, American girl band, or even I think maybe it's a mix. I didn't watch the Netflix program yet, but I think, you know, they are inserting women and men. I don't understand, but it's the necessity in terms of growth. And, you know, and also, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, the UK, when I was younger, I was a big fan of a band called Take That. You know, and if you look at the Beatles were one of the first boy band, because when they started, they were really clean shaven, they were wearing the same clothing, and that's how they became huge. You know, before BTS, there were the Beatles. The Beatles were like the BTS is now. They both came at the time when there was a huge unrest in terms of generation divide. And since then, the UK was always able to come with, you know, powerful groups such as Take That. There was the Spice Girls. Don't know if you guys know the Spice Girls, but Victoria Beckham, before becoming Madame Beckham, she was Victoria Adams. And, you know, also, what's his face? One Direction. They also became kind of big and things like that. So yeah, you know, I think British boy band might even work better than an American boy band. But that's my point of view.
They are certainly relatable.
Would it be considered K-pop? Well, for me, I'm Korean. I'll say no. but some Koreans would probably think it's good. I mean, I don't know. I think for me, they are not K-pop because
Yes.
voilà. But maybe, you know, I mean, I'm saying this, but then again, in K-pop, we have Thais, we have Japanese, we have Indians, we have Africans, we have loads of people coming from other countries, and most of them learn Korean and get really immersed into the Korean mindset and culture. So I'm not too sure how it's going to fare out. My only question is that whether these guys will come to Korea to pursue their training or if they will stay where they are. Because in Korea, we have this really difficult way of, you know, working. And I think it's very important for these guys to understand that being middle is not going to work. They have to be the best at what they do.
Yes. Yes.
And they have this huge now, I mean, they're carrying SM on their backs. It's not just them, it's SM, it's the fandoms, it's the people that will be behind them. So I will see, and remember, what makes K-pop mostly are fandoms. So if the fandoms don't follow those guys, then they will not be able to make it.
Yeah. So
You're welcome.
So I think we'll wrap up. Thank you for attending the event hosted by KoreaProductPost, which is a leading digital media publication dedicated to bringing you everything about Korean. And I hope all of you found it informative and engaging, because I learned so many things. There's just no limit to what I got to know for the first time. And thank you, Hana, for sharing your insight.
Thank you. I'm very kind. I'm very pleased that you guys came around and followed. It was, I mean, it went straight to my heart as well. Thank you so much. 감사합니다.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
감사합니다.
Thank you.
Okay.